Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. So, are MAGA loyalists starting to question Donald Trump's role as their grand poobah now? He promised to release the Epstein files, yet has been hampering their release. He promised no more foreign wars, yet is now moving aggressively against Venezuela, which poses no political or economic threat to the United States. There's a feeling among some prominent MAGA voices that they are being betrayed. How dangerous a game is Trump playing here? You can understand Trump trying to block the release of the Epstein files because their full disclosure is believed to do him some damage. But his moves against Venezuela don't appear to serve him any political purpose. There are Republican hawks he's clearly listening to who want it, but Trump gets nothing really from it and just risks more questions about his alignment with the MAGA base whom he relies upon. The America First movement, remember, is a coalition built on the promise of ending America's foreign entanglements. It's now at war with itself. It's fracturing in real time over something that it swore to oppose, a new foreign military adventure. And consider that if Trump does attack Venezuela more directly, the operation is going to be led by incompetence in the form of War Secretary Pete Hegseth. Now, how incompetent is Pete Hegseth? Let me explain. When Senator Mark Kelly, the senator who urged US service personnel not to obey illegal orders, himself a combat veteran and former astronaut, posted a selfie of himself in uniform wearing his medals, Hegseth immediately attacked the way the medals were in reverse order. But the medals weren't in reverse order. They'd just been inverted by the nature of the selfie. Mirrors, you see. In nature, one of the tests biologists have for high intelligence in animals is, can they recognise their reflection in a mirror? Dolphins can, for example, so that's an indicator of high intelligence because they get reflections. Hegseth doesn't know how mirrors work and so fails this test of high intelligence. And he will be the one directing any war against Venezuela. Now, the USA is a mighty opponent in battle for anyone, but what if they're led by someone who wouldn't even pass a biologist's test for high intelligence? The operation could go tits up pretty badly, like letting Goering run the Luftwaffe or the dumb Dutch Prince of Orange lead troops in the Second Napoleonic War. Donald Trump's most fervent supporters are grappling with a profound sense of unease over a military operation targeting Venezuela. This isn't just a policy disagreement. This is a deep ideological rift that threatens the foundation of the MAGA movement. The criticism isn't just coming from the outside. This is coming from within influential voices who helped bring Donald Trump back to power. You've got people like Joe Rogan and Laura Loomer who are still trying to back Trump but finding it more and more difficult when he does stuff like this. For years, the central promise of Donald Trump's America First platform was simple: no more stupid, endless wars. It was a message that resonated within that base, tired of foreign interventions that they thought drained American blood and treasure as they saw it. But now that core promise is on very shaky ground. The controversy started simmering a couple of months ago when Trump began a military and surveillance campaign in the Caribbean, launching airstrikes on vessels it claimed were controlled by narco-terrorists linked to Venezuela. The operation, justified as necessary to defend the US homeland, escalated through the autumn. At least 83 people have been killed in over 20 strikes. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the one who could not pass a basic intelligence test, has had to deny ordering extrajudicial executions with these attacks. To many within Trump's own base, this looks and feels exactly like the kind of foreign entanglement he railed against. The ongoing strikes, the talk of confronting a narco-terrorist state, have fueled suspicion that the true motive isn't stopping drugs, but regime change in Venezuela. Venezuela themselves are saying this is about oil, as it always is. For many supporters, these actions feel like a shocking reversal, a betrayal of the nationalist policies that defined the movement. The strikes in the Caribbean have exposed a fundamental fissure that's been growing within the Republican Party for years, the battle between the isolationists and the interventionists. Now it's a conflict for the soul of the MAGA movement. On one side are the interventionists, many of whom are long-standing Republican hawks. Key figure here is Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He's long advocated for a hardline stance against Venezuela and is seen as the architect of the aggressive new strategy. He and his allies argue that military engagement is necessary to protect US interests. To grab oil, he means. They don't see these strikes as a betrayal of America First, but as a necessary defence of it. But on the other side are the America First purists, the anti-war voices who believe Trump's primary focus should be at home. This group includes figures like Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, a long-time critic of foreign intervention, who was drawn to Trump's initial reluctance to get involved in foreign wars. For these supporters, lethal strikes on foreign vessels without a clear declaration of war go against the rule of law, because it's basically just murder, and the spirit of the movement they signed up for. This clash of worldviews between those who see America First as anti-war and those who see it as justification for unilateral action, the opposite, is tearing the MAGA coalition apart. Caught between these two warring philosophies is Donald Trump himself. His response has tried to play both sides. He defends his action by trying to reframe the conflict. He insists the Venezuela operation isn't a foreign war, but a domestic issue because it's a war on drugs to protect the American homeland. This rhetorical move allows him to maintain his anti-war posture in name while still engaging in what would be considered acts of war abroad. But this explanation isn't calming the nerves of some of his original supporters. There's growing friction over foreign policy, and it is just the latest in a list of grievances. You've got prominent conservative voices criticising his recent defence of the H-1B visa programme for skilled workers, supposed to be reducing immigration, not increasing it. Another position they see as a betrayal of the America First agenda. These accumulating conflicts suggest that the fracture over Venezuela is a symptom of a larger problem, a growing disconnect between Trump's priorities and the nationalist populist promises that powered his movement. The open conflict within the MAGA movement has implications for the future of the Republican Party. The coalition that propelled Donald Trump to the presidency was built on a shared, if sometimes unclear, idea of America First. It united traditional conservatives, anti-war populists, and economic nationalists. Now that coalition is facing its first real test. The fight over the Venezuela strikes has shattered the illusion of unity. It forces a question. What does America First actually mean? Does it mean Fortress America withdrawn from the world's problems, or does it mean America that uses its military might unilaterally, unbound by traditional alliances or even international law, whenever and wherever it feels it wants to? The unease from influential voices on the right demonstrates that loyalty to Trump is not necessarily guaranteed. For the first time, some are openly questioning whether he's betraying the movement he created. That erodes his authority and could weaken his political grip. The civil war within MAGA is no longer a fringe debate. It's a full-blown crisis of identity that could redefine the American right for years to come. I mean, look at the list of actions which MAGA loyalists would not have predicted for 2025. Trump refusing to release the Epstein files, only getting the release of anything at all thanks to Democrats in Congress. That was not on their MAGA bingo card. Nor was a bombing campaign against Iran or giving money to Argentina, and then talking about easing quotas on cheap Argentine beef at a time when American beef farmers were already struggling due to the Orange One's trade war with China. And now a clear military operation to bring about regime change in Venezuela, a country whose government is not exactly a beacon of democracy, but nonetheless doesn't threaten the United States. This is all looking a lot like the old-fashioned American political engineering of the past. The America First movement was born from a rejection of the political establishment, especially its foreign policy. Now it finds itself tangled in the very same debates it tried to escape. The conflict over Donald Trump's actions in the Caribbean reveals a movement that is no longer unified in its mission. It's a coalition divided, a base feeling very uneasy, very uncertain, and a leader at odds with some of his staunchest ideological allies. Can this movement survive a war with itself? Can Donald Trump lead a coalition that's fundamentally split on one of its core principles? Or is this the beginning of the unravelling of America First as the promises of the campaign trail clash with the realities? Trump is already fighting a rearguard action ahead of next year's midterms. He's had to cancel a load of his tariffs in order to get the cost of groceries down, after toning down his tariff policy in general in order to calm the markets down early this year. But a combination of letting tech giants have access to more visas, military aggression towards Iran and now Venezuela, and of course his resistance to the Epstein files being released, that's raising questions. And when it comes to the military action, Venezuela is way trickier than Iran. With Iran, there was a clear military objective and political objective, which could be met by a single bombing run in one night only. It made no difference whether the US damaged Iran's capabilities or not. They simply had to claim they had. Iran would deny it anyway. No one would know. And all it had to do was effectively stop Israel attacking it. With regime change, it's trickier. The operation's already taken months. Trump presumably aims to generate internal pressure for Maduro to go. What if that doesn't work? How long is this going to drag on for? What will MAGA supporters think at the elections next year if Trump seems opposed to them on fundamental issues like this? His base could crumble, and the midterms, even with his attempts at voter suppression on an unprecedented scale, could be a bloodbath for the Republicans. And for what? What does Trump personally gain from this, even if he succeeds? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel for more content. Thanks for listening, and until next time, I'll see you later.